Jalen Rieger getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out. Good evening, Belly Up Fantasy Live. How are we all doing out there tonight? I am Chase Thornton, coming to you as always from the Mott & Bailey Basement Bar. With me, as per usual, or often, I guess we can say, Kevin Wilson. Good to see you back, friend. Good to have you here, brother. We are going to talk over the next hour about the primetime games from coming up week 10 here in the NFL. We'll also talk about the standalone Sunday morning game. If you all remember that, as this weekend, the NFL plays its first regular season game in Germany. Munich, I believe, is where they're playing that game.
Yes.
Yep. So I think they're done with London for the year. Now they're going to Munich. I don't remember if they have a Mexico City game later this year or not, but that's part of what they're now calling their international series. So that'll be fun to talk about that one. We'll get to that one in a minute, though. First off, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Last October was a tough month for our family here. My wife lost her mother at the beginning of October. I lost my father at the end. And, you and the entire Belly Up team has been very supportive of me. And I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate that. And so, I'm glad to be back and we're moving forward.
No, we love you, brother. I'm glad to have you back too. And no problem. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Pick each other up.
That's right. And we do that on our network. So
we do. That's one of the things that I like about working for Belly Up. And it's almost not work. It's more, it's more like family and more like fun. So, all right, let's see here now. We're going to talk about the first game of the week here. And let's talk about the Thursday night game tomorrow night between the Falcons and the Panthers. Now, once again, we are left with a less than stellar matchup on Thursday night.
Yeah. Chase, when it comes to these Thursday night games, and this is a Cat household, as I've said many times, and so we support all things Cat. That's why I'm wearing a Carolina Panther shirt right now. But it seems to me if I'm Amazon Prime, I'm going to the NFL and say, hey, I want a refund, because these games have just been the donkey's rear end. Where they just shoveled things out of the back of the truck, and whatever was left over, that's what they put on.
Right. I suppose when you're the only game literally in town, or for the most part, I don't know if the Mountain West still plays on Thursday nights all the time or whatever, foot college games, but I suppose, it doesn't really matter what you show on Thursday if you feel like everybody's going to tune in anyway. But it sure would be nice to get a better matchup here. It felt like the first couple matchups of the year were good on paper, but starting with that debacle between the Bills and the Rams that first opening night, man, it just Thursday night has been less than spectacular.
Slid off it's like a table that's uneven, and you put a pencil on it and it slides off the table, and
but at any rate, we are going to get a Falcons-Panthers game tomorrow.
That's right. So as I mentioned, we are a Cat house, and we do have Amazon Prime here. But apart from that, and we're going to get into some fantasy relevant stuff here. I don't see a lot of fantasy relevant stuff to discuss when it comes to this game. Not really.
No, that's where I was going with it. First off, the Falcons are 4.5-point favorites, according to our friends over at Quarter Four. They got an over/under for this game.
3 is what I had, so it's 4.5 now. So
yeah,
and
with an over/under of 39.5,
like the Falcons are world killers either.
No, they have. Now they've shocked. They've won a couple games this year, but they are not necessarily what anybody would call a high-power offense. They don't pass the ball barely at all.
No, because if they did, they wouldn't have lost to the Chargers last weekend.
Right. And it seems like they have failed to use their top two weapons, what I would consider their top two weapons, especially at least in the passing game between Drake London and Kyle Pitts. But Falcons 4.5-point favorites going to Carolina. And yeah, an under 40 points seems about right to me, because there should not be a whole lot of points scored in this game. You know, if we start from the Falcons perspective, Marcus Mariota has a rushing floor, and I think he's actually performed better than I think a lot of people thought he would this year, and better than I think he's gotten maybe some credit for this year, in terms of, you know, keeping this team steady, leading them. You know, from a fantasy standpoint, he's a startable quarterback. He's fantasy overall 12,
especially in dynasty,
especially in a dynasty type,
in a 2 quarterback league, whatever. Because I'm, you know, in a dynasty league, and I picked him up as soon as he signed with Atlanta. I went out and got him, because you can never have enough quarterbacks in a 2 quarterback league. So.
And keep in mind, he had not been a regular starter for about 3-4 years. It had been a while since he had been the guy. You know, he was a fine, capable backup, and they brought him in for a couple of gadget packages and things like that when he was with Las Vegas. But, you know, he has not had to be the guy for quite a while. And I think he stepped in. I think he's done fairly well. No, he's not lighting the world on fire passing the football, but with that rushing floor that he's already got 3 touchdowns. That's, I believe, tied for 3rd in the league, or among quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns for the year. I think that he is playable, especially if you're, like you said, you're in a 2 quarterback system, or a super flex or whatever. I think he's at least a streamer. The Panthers defense is pretty middle of the road.
With all these teams that are on their bye week, and you got guys like, you know, Derek Carr, who have not played well, and guys that even Tom Brady has not been Tom Brady, and your quarterback Aaron Rodgers has not played well.
No, there's a lot of guys who have underperformed.
So if you're in a pinch,
if you're in a pinch right now, and if the buys are nailing you to the wall, you're not going to find a whole lot of guys that you're going to feel good about right now on the waiver wire. But if Mariota's out there, and he should be, there's a good chance he is, because he's available pretty widely.
Yes,
we're talking about the guy who's quarterback 12 overall. That's a startable player. That's a startable That's a startable player week 5 when there are no buys or whatever. Like,
right, and let's say you have 12. Somebody like Allen. What if Allen doesn't play Sunday?
Yeah, right. If Allen doesn't play, do you feel better about using a guy who has started all year? Or do you feel better about using Case Keenum, who is
there's no question about that? That Marcus Mariota 10 times and every day on rushing
Sunday
and Tuesday and whatever other day they play.
You know, he's going to get you. You know, he's going to get you 3.5, 4 points right off the bat, just because he's running the football. And then everything else on top of that. I mean, he didn't throw a touchdown last week against the Chargers, like you said, but I mean, before that, he had a 3-touchdown game.
That's right.
It's not like he doesn't have targets now.
Plus, he's got Cordarrelle Patterson is back, and in my dynasty league, I had Cordarrelle Patterson, and seemed like 16 teams were on bye last week,
right?
And all of a sudden, Cordarrelle Patterson was available. He came off IR. Great. And he scored 2 touchdowns. Right. Put him in my starting lineup, and away we went. So,
and the nice thing about what they've got going on there now is, with Patterson out, they had to give their backups, namely Tyler Algier, some run. And what we saw in the game the other day is Patterson still led the team in carries from the backfield, but having Algier be able to line up as a running back, still have Patterson, allows you to move Patterson around on the field, and he doesn't have to start from the tailback or the halfback position. No. You can use him in that gadget role.
If he had found one more yard, he would have had 100 for the game last week.
Right, yeah. And it was one of his best games he's played, to be dead honest. But
9.9 yards per carry.
You drafted the guy. Yeah, you drafted the guy for a reason. Now in this game, I've got him down in flex territory. I'm not necessarily, but the Panthers defense gives up a ton of points to opposing.
Yeah, they're the 27th ranked defense. So
yeah, so I mean, when
you've got some Atlanta players, you could start them. And
definitely
Carolina, we'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe not so much.
I've got Patterson. I've got Patterson ranked as a running back 2. I've got Algier on the flex line. I've got him at 31 overall because I think the Panthers can be had on the ground. I don't think they're going to have to pass a ton. They don't want to pass a ton anyway.
No.
But so they're at least between Mariota, Patterson. I think Patterson is a guy we're all playing anyway. I mean, for the most part, if you've got him, you've been waiting for him to come back. You're probably playing him anyway. I would recommend you play him as a starter, at least as a flex. I think you can flex Algier. Now, when we get to their receiving core, unfortunately, we're talking about guys who have a ton of talent. They're just not getting the ball.
Nope. Kyle Pitts has been in the pits. Literally.
No, I know.
You look at it's just not there. You know, the fantasy points he's had, this is what he's had the last 5 weeks. 13, 3, 10, 3. Then he had 19, which was, you'll take that. And then last week, 4 points.
Yeah.
That's 4 more points than I had on, I was on the airplane,
right. Yeah.
Flying across
you only beat me by 4
nation
points,
of ours. That's 4 more points than I had.
Yeah. He's
that's not what you drafted him in the second or third round.
No, I thought that before the year when I was looking at my projections, I looked at Kyle Pitts, I looked at Drake London, and I thought these two guys are going to be absolute target monsters. I thought, they're going to get the ball force fed to them, and them alone pretty much exclusively in the pass game in this offense. And it's not necessarily like they haven't been target monsters.
Well,
in comparison to the rest of their
targets
offense
last week.
In comparison to the rest of their offense,
but 23 yards receiving.
No, that's the thing is this is such a conservative, such a underutilized passing attack. Kyle Pitts has almost a 24% target share as a tight end. That's pretty damn good. That's what you want when you draft your tight end. It's just that he's not getting crazy efficiency. He's not catching a ton of the balls that come his way because
he only had 2 catches out of 7 targets, too.
Yeah. Mariota has not been
they are not on the same page.
No, he hasn't been very, very accurate this year. I mean, he's throwing it at 61.7% completions. That's actually right in line with his career average, but it's not what you want for a quarterback. Yeah, you need a better job than that as a quarterback, especially if you're only going to throw the ball as few times as they throw it.
They only threw it 23 times.
Yeah.
Last week, and he only completed 12.
And so
I've got
Pitts. I actually have Pitts ranked in the top 10 this week at 9, only because I think that he's one of the few weapons that they have. And I think that the Panthers defense can be had. Now, the Panthers defense is not, they're not bad against opposing tight ends. They give up 20th, they're 20th in points given up. So they're right on the cusp of a bad matchup there for you. But I think that if anybody's going to get targets, you've got your 2 best players are definitely Pitts and London. But, if you want to talk about target monsters, Drake London has a 28.7% target share. That's pretty good. I mean, there's not a lot of guys in the league. I mean, that's 8th in the league right now among wide receivers for a target share. So he is the target that I thought he was going to be. It's just that he doesn't have the raw number of targets because they just have not thrown the ball as much as I think we all would want them to.
Right.
So I agree
hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3.
Right. So I have Pitts right on the tight end 1-2 line. It's bye
weeks.
Well,
if you have Pitts, you almost have to start him.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean. You spent
the draft capital on
round. So who else on the tight end waiver wire are you going to go out and get?
Nobody right now. There's not a lot out there. I mean, do you feel good about playing Brevin Jordan? In place of him? No. Brevin Jordan will have about the same kind of game Kyle Pitts will, and you got to drop somebody to get him on your roster.
You don't want 2 tight ends on your team. That's
and that's the thing is when you draft that what we call a vanity tight end. When you draft a Kelsey, an Andrews, a Pitts for sure, those type of guys with that kind of name recognition, you for sure don't go out unless you've got some kind of crazy deep bench. You for sure don't want to go out and draft a second tight end or have to carry one. So you probably don't have a great option right now behind Pitts and haven't had all year, unfortunately. So you've got to play him if you have him. I have him on the 1-2 line this week. I think he might make a sneaky DFS play. I'd try it that way. London, though, I have as a wide receiver 4 this week. Again, maybe a sneaky DFS play, but they're about the only two I would consider from them in terms of pass catching. And even then, I just need to see more out of their pass game as a whole before I trust either of them.
That's right.
We already talked about Mariota. Mariota can get his numbers without throwing the ball a ton, but they can't. They have to have the ball thrown to them to be relevant.
Right. I mean, if the quarterback's running the ball, you're blocking. You get no points for blocking.
No, yeah, right.
So
you want fantasy relevance. I will say that I find their defense startable this week as a streamer against Panthers, and their kicker Younghoe Koo has been startable all year too. So there's your fantasy relevance right there, down at the bottom of the barrel where we really don't, where it's a dart throw anyway.
Right.
So, but let's look at your team on the other side of the field real quick. Let's look at the Panthers here. Now, last week was a rough week for them. First off, they gave up that crazy historic game to Joe Mixon. But then on top of that, they bench Walker at halftime. PJ Walker, who has taken over as their starter here for the last few weeks. But they bench him in favor of their previous starter, Baker Mayfield, at halftime. And actually, Mayfield looked, and at least he performed, much better in the second half.
Well,
so
if you're trailing 35-0, you have nothing to lose.
Right?
You have
open up and let it
nothing
fly.
to lose. Yeah.
But yeah, Mayfield comes in. Walker had 9 yards passing in that game and 2 interceptions. Mayfield comes in, goes 14 of 20 for $155, 2 scores, no interceptions, which is a pretty damn good stat line for a Baker Mayfield half. That's a good stat line for a Baker Mayfield game, let alone half. And they ended up scoring some points. Now, yes, they lost 42-21. It was a blowout, but everybody left that game thinking, do we have another quarterback controversy in Carolina? And they shut that down right away. Steve Wilkes came out this week. He said, no, PJ Walker will start tomorrow night. But either way, I'm not psyched about either one of them.
Yeah. Don't be starting any Carolina quarterback.
Even in a two-quarter.
The rest of the way. The rest of the season.
The exception to that rule is, and even then, if you're in like a 16-team super flex league where the only second quarterback you can get is somebody off the Panthers, okay, well, it's worth a shot, maybe. But again, great, Walker will start tomorrow. We don't know if he's going to stick around
for more than half. Hopefully, if you're in a 16-team league, that you
have something
looked ahead a little bit better than needing PJ Walker.
Hopefully, you weren't drafting. Hopefully you weren't drafting at the tail end of the second round snake, in a 16-team super flex format. But now from a running back standpoint, last week we saw, Deontay Foreman last year, he filled in really well for Hunter Henry.
He did.
Or not Hunter Henry, King Henry, I should say, Derrick Henry. Filled in really well for Derrick Henry when Derrick Henry went down. He was by far the most effective guy that they tried in Tennessee last year. And when they brought him in this year for Carolina, I thought the same thing. I thought he will be the most effective guy.
That's what I thought too. So that's why I went out and got him.
And we've seen, and CMC,
he's on my team.
Thankfully, McCaffrey has been healthy so far. I don't say that too loud, Brown. All right, but Foreman has taken over now as the starter in that backfield at least the last couple of weeks, and that's due partially to Hubbard being injured. But I just don't see anything exciting about Hubbard in the first place. But then last week we get Blackshear.
I was not big on him either. So, if you've got either one of those two guys, I recommend you hold on to whomever you have until this shakes out a little bit better.
I'm using Foreman as a starter in one league because I was thin at running back anyway, and then J.K. Dobbins went down with an injury, and Breece Hall went down with an injury, and I was like, oh great, now I'm stuck. But I was able to pick Foreman up off the wire right before the CMC trade, and I was like, oh.
Well, hopefully he'll do what he did the week before that because he had 34 fantasy points.
Right, he's done.
And then it went to 4.
But then we look at last week. And all of a sudden, here comes Raheem Blackshear. He comes in and he more than doubles his attempts for the season, more than doubled his snaps played for the season. He'd been primarily special teams before that. He only had 13 yards rushing, everybody, but he scored a touchdown. He caught 4 targets for 40 yards. And all of a sudden, I'm getting notices on my phone that guys in my leagues are dropping so-and-so for Raheem Blackshear.
Well, good luck with that.
Don't chase that.
Good luck with that.
This is Foreman's backfield. It'll be somewhat a Hubbard help out when and if Hubbard's healthy. Don't look at a
Yeah,
spike
you don't
game
want
from a
somebody's
special
third
teamer.
running back. You don't want that.
You don't want a spike team from a backup, yeah, and all of a sudden thinking that that's a guy that you need to drop Cortland Sutton for or anything like that. Now, what do you make though of their wide receiver position, and which quarterback do you like better if you want to look at Moore and or Terrace Marshall?
Well, because I have DJ Moore. I drafted him, and it hasn't been pretty. Hasn't been.
No.
And inconsistent at best, right?
Mhm.
And here's another guy. He went from 152 yards the previous week to 24 last week. Okay. And went from 32 to 4 points fantasy 1 week to the next.
Right.
So I think if you have more, you got to stick with it.
And I think the unfortunate thing about that, and the thing that worries you more about that, is that, again, Moore, he only had 6 targets in a game where they pretty much had to be throwing from the get-go.
Right. 6 targets.
Why are you
only
not
2
giving
catches.
your receiver more than 6 targets in the game? He'd had 11 and 10 previously to that. 6 targets is what he was seeing early in the year with Mayfield when he was ineffective. Why Baker can't get the ball to his best receiver on that team more often?
Yeah, it's one of the
beyond.
mysteries of the NFL season.
Right. So, I mean, when we talk about Moore, Walker's back. Walker had been good for him for the previous 2 weeks.
I think that'll hold. And but now the biggest sensation is Terrace Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
And but he only had 3 catches.
Right.
Right.
And
53 yards and a touchdown. And but only gave him 14 fantasy points, even with the touchdown.
Yeah, he was pretty highly drafted by them, not this season, but last season. He was a 2nd-round pick for them, and he came in with a lot of hype to him and a lot of expectation. But they didn't give him a whole lot of run last year. Even in the 13 games that he played, he only saw 30 targets on the year last year. But he finally scores his first career touchdown last week, and again, he got the same number of targets that Moore did. I think he is a dynamic player. He's a fun player. I would look at him as no better than a flex. I think they'll have to throw this game, but with the uncertainty around their
on a Thursday
position,
night, I'm not starting Terrace Marshall on a Thursday night.
And that's part of the problem with it is it's a Thursday night game. If this were a Sunday night game where you could afford to watch
on a Thursday night in your flex to begin with.
Well, no, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah. You're drowning, you're going down under, you've got no, there's no air tube that's coming out to rescue you or anything else.
Right.
There's no, rescue diver or anything like that available. Don't do that. And so I'm not gonna start him anywhere tomorrow.
No, I agree.
I need to see more out of Moore and more out of Marshall going forward before I'm and especially since I got more already. I'm not adding the second.
You've already been dealing with that all
receiver.
season. Yep.
I'm not doing that.
I went out and picked him up because a couple guys dropped him in several of my leagues, and I was like, okay, yeah, if I have a spot on the bench, he's worth a shot because we know he can be a top 20 wide receiver. But unless they get some better quarterback play, he may languish like that all year. He may be a frustrating play. I just hope he's not Allen Robinson 2.0 and disappears now forever. But for my money, I think
Foreman, he can't be Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson was great at one time. He was great at one time. Terrace Marshall has not been great as of yet. So,
but yeah, for my money, I say DJ Moore, a low-end wide receiver 2 for the week. Marshall, like I said, is in flex territory, but like you pointed out, it's a Thursday night game. You don't want to flex anybody on a Thursday night if you can at all get away from it. Foreman is the best play from that team, in my opinion. He really is. And I agree. Possibly their DST.
I've got him, and I'm not starting him tomorrow. I'm not doing that.
No. So, all right. Well, let's take a break here real quick. We'll listen to the fine workings of Dan Mater and Manscaped, and then when we come back, we're gonna break down your other favorite team and the game in Germany here. So, let's take a look at Manscaped.
Welcome to Fresh Ball Fall. It's the season of pumpkin spice and making sure your crotch looks nice. That means sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. That's right, today's show is brought to you by Manscaped, a company here to make sure that your foliage isn't the only thing shedding its excess leaves. Heck, even Mother Nature knows it's time to lose the excess clutter for fall. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Whether you're brand new or already with us at Manscaped, you can use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Platinum Package 4.0. This glorious package, you can align your entire hygiene routine all in one swoop. Inside the 10-part Platinum Package is everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to platinum. You can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminum-free Ultra Premium Deodorant. And don't worry, it's not pumpkin spice, it's a cologne-quality fragrance. Get the Platinum Package this fall. These products are guaranteed to be hits for your dangly bits. Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine.
All right, welcome back. Thanks
It
again.
doesn't
to
get any
Dan
better
Meter
than
for
that. Damn.
Yeah, yep. Gets better every time you hear it. All right. Let's move on now to the Sunday morning game. Morning around here at any rate.
That's
7:30 kickoff time, Eastern Standard Time. It'll be 8:30 UNI time, Central Time here.
Actually, it'd be 9:30.
Oh, is it 9:30? Is it 9:30? Okay.
Yeah, because they're an hour ahead of us.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know,
That's
as
true.
they explained on in other Belly Up shows, Eastern is where time begins, apparently. So
Yeah, well, I like where I'm at. But,
Yeah.
at any rate, we've got the Seahawks at the
My
Buccaneers.
Seattle Seahawks.
We're wearing
All
the road jerseys against the Buccaneers, at least. Buccaneers are a 1-point favorite, according to the fine folks, at Q4.
hey, that's gone down. It was 2.5 this morning. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
people better start taking these Seahawks seriously.
as we talked about on the show previous to this one, I was, like I said, I was on with Captain Lou earlier, and we were looking at the Lions game. Some of the Q4 lines are a few points different than what you and I typically would think of if we're looking at MGM or BetMGM or other places. But the fine folks, like I said, at Q4 have them as a 1-point the Buccaneers as a 1-point favorite. It's the over-under is 42 for this game, and the Seahawks, I don't think any of us foresaw how actually fantasy useful they would be, let alone how
certainly
good they
didn't,
are in
and,
real life.
You know, I'm a long time Seahawk fan, and I didn't see this coming. I was like, Geno Smith, are you kidding me right now?
Right. And I feel good for the guy. I love it. It's a great storyline, with him.
Yeah,
being-
you gotta like that. Guy's a career backup, and sitting over there on the Jet sideline. I'm sure that wasn't any fun
we
over
hadn't
there.
barely heard of
And,
him for years.
All of a sudden,
right?
no.
No.
I never heard of him until he played. Russell Wilson hurt, his hand last year, and all of a
Right.
sudden, Geno Smith, like I didn't know he was our backup.
Right. And that's something when you don't know who even is on that he's even on your roster. That's how you know a guy
Well,
is
because
faded
Russell
to the
Wilson never
background of
missed
the
a
league.
game till last year,
Right.
so
Yeah,
we
he
didn't
was
care who
always
the
really
backup
durable.
was.
Well, at any
Absolutely.
rate, he's been
any rate.
remarkably useful as a quarterback and as a fantasy player in his own right. He has not killed the fantasy prospects of
No, he sure
Tyler
hasn't.
Lockett. And in fact, if anything,
Certainly,
he's been a boon for Tyler Lockett.
right, because he has 6 touchdown passes last 3 weeks. 6.
I think what he's done, he has made Tyler Lockett somehow feel much more consistent to me. I've said it
Even
before.
though Tyler Lockett dropped a pass against the Giants,
He
and I'm
did.
like, are you kidding me right now? Because I have Tyler Lockett on my fantasy team. I'm like, dude, you just cost me, however, 10 points, whatever, 6 points for the touchdown. But then he caught one later, so I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I'll live.
he kind of made up for it a little bit, but Tyler Lockett was always, I always call it Tyler Lockett roulette because, he would have a 30-point game and he'd follow it up with about 4 or 5 games in a row of 2.8 fantasy points and 4 catches for 40 yards and nothing special. And then he'd pop off for another 31.6 game again or something along those lines. But you never could tell when he was going to have those games. And he has evened out much more this year. To me, it feels like you can count on him much more. He's getting, he's still getting good targets. He's seeing good targets, but he's catching a lot of them. And it feels like you can count on Lockett a lot more than you used to be able to count on him. I always thought of Lockett as pretty much just a straight best ball type player because you didn't have to try and find those weeks when he was going to go off. The computer just plugged him in for you kind of thing. The only problem with this is that, the Seahawks have been a good offense, but they're facing a pretty damn good defense this week in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay is the 9th overall defense. However, you have to, when you look at the Seattle defense, the last 4 weeks, they are top 5 in interceptions, sacks, yards allowed, and points allowed per game. So, when you talk about Geno Smith, you got to talk about the Seattle defense because they've turned it around as much
keep giving him the ball
any
back. Yeah.
unit in football because they were. Remember when they played the Lions a few weeks ago? They scored 48 points because they had to because they gave up 42.
Right? No, and I think you bring up a good point there. Yeah, this entire team has pretty much outperformed our expectations of them.
They're 6-3. I thought they'd win 3 games all year long.
They maybe have outscored their expectations or outplayed their expectations. To be honest with you, I don't think they're outplaying their talent. I don't think they're playing
their
over
talent
their own
is
heads
being
right now.
maximized.
And that's the cool thing about it. I have Smith on QB1, QB2 line this week. Again, it's a tough matchup, but he's just been so consistent and so usable. I still have him on that QB1-2 line. Where do you think you have Smith, or where do you see him in terms of playable this week?
Well, as you mentioned, since they're going up against Tampa, I'd put him in the top 5. I wouldn't put him in, the 1 or 2 just yet because of the matchup. But if I would start him with confidence, if I have him or, once again, 2 quarterback league or whatever it is, Geno Smith is a startable fantasy quarterback, no matter what kind of your dynasty, PPR, standard, whatever it is, you got Geno, you must start him.
I agree that, unless you've got one of the big 3 or 4 names, unless you've got Hurts or Allen or somebody on your team.
If you've got one of those guys, then you don't need Geno Smith.
You probably don't have Geno Smith anyway, unless you pick him up somehow.
Unless you're in a 2 quarterback. If you've got one of those guys and Geno Smith is your number 2 quarterback in a 2 quarterback league, you are in good shape.
Yeah. We're talking about a guy, he's quarterback 8 overall. And he has looked good. He has looked real good. So I agree. He's a startable quarterback. I think Kenneth Walker is a must start at running back.
You got to start him.
He's
Listen
proven
to this line right here. Okay. Kenneth Walker, 26 rushes, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Right. And he has shown every game.
Monster.
He has shown every game that he has that kind of ability. And
he has 5 touchdowns in 7 games.
Right.
He's absolutely.
Physical.
Doesn't matter if it was the Giants, right? Doesn't matter if it was the Giants, and their defense. Didn't matter if it was, whomever it is. Since he's come in as the starter, and that's one of the things that because I had a choice. I could have had Walker, or I could have had the running back who injured himself about a week after I picked him up.
Now he's probably more. He's probably more valuable in a standard format than PPR. He doesn't see a lot of targets, although he doesn't see a career high in targets. But he has scored in each of the last 5 games, including a couple of 2-score games. And I think he's turned himself into a must start this year.
Absolutely. So especially you got him off the waiver wire. What player off the waiver wire have you got more value out of? Other than maybe Geno Smith,
he's a league winner type. If you were able to pick him up,
I wish
whether or not you had Rashad Penny,
and,
whoever picked up Walker,
I went ahead and I got Rashad Penny, and he played well for a couple weeks, and then the inevitable occurred, and the injury happened, and now we've got Walker.
Well, we want to look at their receiving core now. I mean, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, they're coming off a game where they each scored a touchdown. Second time that's happened this year. I have them both as wide receiver 2s, again, only because, they're facing a tough defense in the Buccaneers. I still think they're both capable of scoring and they're both going to see their targets. So I have them both as startable as well. I have them as wide receiver 2 types.
And I heard all this clamor about let's go out and get Noah Fant. I would hit the pause button on that just a little bit.
Right.
Even though he had a nice game last week, he caught 5 out of 6 balls for 96 yards. You'll take that out of your tight end every time.
Yep.
But if you look at his season line, it has not been there. And going up against the Tampa defense, I'm not starting Noah Fant. I'm not doing that.
Well, and it's a little more complicated than it might look at first glance, because if there's one thing that Tampa Bay has not done well, it's defend against tight ends. They give up the 10th most points in football to opposing fantasy tight ends. But again,
it just hasn't been consistent to me.
The problem with it
that's the problem right there.
Every game you don't know if it's going to be a Disley game or a Fant game. Disley game or
because
a Fant game.
Once you think it's Noah Fant, then Disley shows up, and then he catches 5 balls.
Right, and he's the one that's got 3 touchdowns on the year. And then every once in a while, just to piss everybody off, they put Colby Parkinson in, and he rips off a 40-yarder. So, for my money, I'm not.
Where if you're looking for a tight end other than the Seahawks this week.
No, even right now in the middle of the bye weeks with 4 guys off, I'm not starting a Seattle tight end, and if I can get away
hopefully
with it.
You're like me. You've got Goddard, so you're good to go. So
I think Myers, the kicker, is a good play this week. If you're looking at kickers, I've got him on a couple of rosters. He's fun if you need a streamer. He's and in this game especially, it's in Europe. Okay, I don't know how much there is to that whole argument that it's in Europe, so they like to watch the kicking game. So teams are going to try to win the goddamn game. They're going to try and score points however they can. But with a team like the Buccaneers, if they shut you down at the 25-yard line, okay, well, now you got to take a shot at it. They don't give up a ton of points to opposing, they don't give up a ton of points to opposing kickers. But I like to bet on a good offense against a good defense. You can do worse things than take a kicker in that circumstance, because that good offense might get just close enough to get him four attempts in the game. If he can get 4 attempts in the game and an extra point or 2, I'll take that from my kicker every week.
Right.
All right. And then, so the other side of the field now, we got the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady has underproduced and underwhelmed this season.
Until it was 56 seconds or whatever seconds it were.
And then he comes
and
out
then
last
he was
week.
Tom Brady, and he led it right down the field and got a touchdown. But before that, he was, Steve Brady or somebody else that,
the Seahawks D has played better, and they've played better as of late, but they're still giving up the 11th most points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks. Brady still has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and actually has Julio Jones for at least the first couple snaps of this game until who knows what happens with him.
Yeah. When you look at these guys, Mike Evans, 11 targets, Godwin, 10 targets. Right. So they're getting thrown the ball.
I like him again on the court. This is one of the highest rankings I've given him all year. But I do like Tom Brady. I've got him at 10 right now. I've got him right on that line of start in a quarterback in a 10-team, 12-team league. I've got him right on that and bottom end start.
I'm going to have him just a little bit lower than that, because the Seahawks, as I mentioned, they're first in the last 4 weeks.
They've looked good lately. They have looked good lately.
They are first in sacks, and Tom Brady doesn't hate anything more. Maybe he hates being divorced more right now, but but other than that, he hates getting hit. And if the Seahawks can get to him and affect him, he's not Tom Brady. He hasn't been Tom Brady because they've been, their offensive line has injuries and everything else. Yeah. And so I think the Seahawks can limit Tom Brady this week.
Well, one of the things that, I mean, yeah, you brought up their offensive line troubles, and I brought this up too, and I've brought it up repeatedly this season. It seems like every 8 minutes, another Buccaneer offensive lineman goes down for the count.
Right.
But the one thing that they really have done well this year is pass block efficiency. They rank first in the league in pass block efficiency according to PFF, and they're only ninth in total pressures allowed. So I mean, they have done a good job pass blocking. The trouble is they're terrible at run blocking. Leonard Fournette is absolutely abysmal.
Okay, here we go.
His average
9
rush
carries,
is absolutely abysmal.
19 yards.
Yes. So if there's one thing
if
they
you're
can
averaging
do is
less than
pass.
2 yards to carry, you might want to, get your knees and your ankles checked because something's not happening
Now,
there.
again,
He
yeah.
did catch 5 balls. That's the only thing that has saved his season is his catching out of the backfield.
He has been crazy at catching the ball out of the backfield compared to what I kind of thought that he would be.
Yeah, I thought so. He hasn't shown that in the past as being that
no.
adept at catching
And
the
here he
ball,
is
but
fourth
he
in the
has
league in
done it
targets.
this year.
He is fourth in the league in targets at the running back position. That blows my mind. But it has kept him afloat from a fantasy perspective because he's only averaging 3.3 yards a carry.
Right. And
They have
so everybody's
not
running
been good.
out there picking up Rashad White. I think you need to hit the caution button just a little bit on him.
Right.
Leonard Fournette's not going anywhere.
No. I still have Leonard Fournette as a RB1, RB2. I've got him right on that line this week again.
I've got him on my
White,
team, and I'm starting him against my Seahawks.
I've got him ranked at number 12 this week. I am not picking up Rashad White with any kind of hopes. If you do have him,
he had. Well, let's see here. He had 8 carries for 27 yards.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
No,
That's not happening. A lot of people went out and got him. I saw him a bunch of places, waiver wire pickups. Rashad White, yay! No,
yeah, he hasn't done a whole lot for you. But I agree, and Leonard Fournette's not going anywhere. So you're playing
hopefully you've
Fournette.
got a better
if you've
running
got
back
him.
situation than having to go out and get Rashad White.
Right. You're playing Fournette.
Hopefully.
You're playing Mike Evans. Obviously, I've got Mike Evans ranked
Obviously,
as
you're
a
playing
starter this
him.
week.
You're playing Chris Godwin.
Yep, I've got both of them as
even
wide receiver 2 types.
Even Cotton. He had 5 catches out of 6. He had 68 yards and a touchdown.
Yes, Cade Otton has come on. He finally
Cade
caught,
Otton.
he caught,
So
caught,
if you
caught
need a
his first
tight end,
touchdown.
and who doesn't need a tight end? Pretty much.
Right. Now
He's
I've got him
startable
ranked at
tight
number
end
10
this week.
because Gronk's not coming back, everybody. He's just not.
No.
Let it ride.
He's on TV, right?
Brate
He
is-
does the USAA commercials and whatever else
Right.
he's doing over there, and he looks quite comfortable doing that. So
Now,
why in the
Cameron
world?
Brate came back to practice, and he is supposedly healthy right now, but we'll see. He has had a lot of trouble this year with the concussions and that. So I wouldn't count on that, on having Cameron Brate for any length of time.
No.
Cade Otton has looked
Please don't
very
do
good
that.
of late.
Yes.
And I'm high on him. I have him ranked at 10 this week at tight end, especially during the bye weeks. But I think
If you can get a top 10 tight end off the waiver wire,
he has become a usable tight end week in and week out. I think in the last couple of weeks, I would say that he's just as good a dart throw at that position as anybody else. So I have him ranked at number 10. Suck up the kicker is obviously a start. This defense is good. They're good fantasy wise. I know they're playing the Seahawks. Seahawks are a good offense, but the Buccaneers are the kind of defense that somehow finds ways to keep scoring fantasy points at any rate. So I think that there are a lot of usable pieces in this game, even though we're playing with two pretty good teams. There's a lot of usable pieces. I think it could be a lot of fireworks that on Sunday morning. And I, for one, I'm looking forward to waking up and checking that game out. But we're going to hear from True Classic real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Sunday night and Monday night games, actually. So listen to this from True Classic, and we'll be back on the other side.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt to couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
All right, we're back. Thanks again to Dan for that read there. Let's talk about the Sunday night game real quick here between the Chargers and the 49ers. Now, 49ers are a 5-point favorite according to our friends at Quarter Four. Over under.
Okay, that's better than what I have. I have them a 7-point favorite.
Yeah, they are favored. And
yes,
to me, it seems, I think this might be a little bit closer game than people.
If it's 7 points, I'm taking the 7 and I'm giving it to the Chargers.
Right. I think this is a closer game than 7. I think the 5-point line is still even maybe a little generous, but of course I don't set these lines, and that's why they get money from suckers like me. But the Chargers here now, coming off a last second thrilling victory from Dicker the kicker. Kicked a second game-winning field goal for his second different team this year. He's played 2 games for 2 different teams, and he's got 2 game-winning field goals. Good for that kid.
Right, which is great, but it was only 20 points they scored
against the Falcons.
That is not cutting it. It's not going to beat. That's not going to beat the 49ers. I'll guarantee you that right now.
The thing about the 49 or the Chargers from a fantasy standpoint this year is, I mean, obviously, if you drafted Allen and or Williams. As your wide receiver 1 or even your wide receiver 2, you've been disappointed because they've been hurt.
You're underwater, not just disappointed. You're underwater.
Keenan Allen being hurt has depressed Justin Herbert's value.
It has.
Well.
So if
I've
you
got
went out
Justin
and got
Herbert
Justin Herbert in the first 5 rounds, maybe the first 4,
I think out of 19, I think it's 19 leagues. I think I have Justin Herbert in like 5 of them, and it's been a crap.
Well, that was reasonable coming into the season. Absolutely reasonable.
And I don't normally go for quarterback early. I don't normally jump on quarterback that early, but I thought, okay, well, I liked what Herbert was going to do this year. But it's been tough to watch. Now with Williams and Allen, they're both likely out again this week. So you're looking at another week of
Allen's only played 2 games this year, 2.
Right. So you're looking at another week of Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter.
If you got Josh Palmer, start him.
If you've got Herbert, you're playing him. Herbert's your quarterback, you're playing him.
Right.
If you've got Austin Eckler, we don't have to talk about Austin Eckler. You're going to play him. You have to play him.
Please stop that. Yeah, please.
But when it gets to their receiver core now, you're talking about Josh Palmer. I brought him up. I wrote an article earlier this season about dynasty rebuild strategies. And I said, Josh Palmer's one of those names to go out and target in a dynasty format because his measurables are the exact same as Keenan Allen's. And in fact, some of his combine type numbers match up very favorably with Keenan Allen, except he's a lot younger. Keenan Allen's contract is one they can get out of if they want to very easily after this season. And you'd still have Josh Palmer now as a young wide receiver with Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He hasn't flashed as much potential as I think everybody would like to see this year in place of Allen. But I agree with you. If you can still pick him up somehow, if he's still out there in your league, he's worth an ad right now.
I can't see how he's out there in anybody's league, but if he is, as soon as you shut the show off, you need to go out to your league's website and see if he's out there. If he is, get him.
10 targets last week,
10
100
targets.
yards.
10.
Yep.
He caught 8. That's 80%.
Now, DeAndre Carter on the other side of the field, the other fill-in receiver they've had, has been a little less consistent than he has. Scored week 1, had a great week 1. Everybody was psyched up about him there. but even he went 5 of 6 for 53 yards last week. He got you double-digit points. So they're both usable. I've got Palmer on the wide receiver 2, say flex line. I think Palmer would be a fun play in DFS. I don't know that he's going to be as counterculture as you might think he would be if you're in like a GPP format, because I think a lot of people are going to think they can go out and use him, and they'll get Williams Allen type numbers for not that cost.
Right.
But for Carter, I'm looking at more of as just a straight DFS play. Somebody cheap you can throw in your lineup who's got a chance to score a touchdown.
The only thing that will give you pause on all that is San Francisco has the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And
so if you're starting Carter, which would be their wide receiver 4, right? If there weren't any injuries against
if
the
there
number
were no
1
injuries,
defense,
if there were no injuries, he's their wide receiver 4, which in that offense means he's probably more like the 6th option behind Eckler and whoever's playing tight end, which is Gerald Everett right now.
right? So just be a little cautious if you thinking you're going to start him. Just be a little cautious because the number 1 defense, and now San Francisco has a way they can control the ball a little bit.
They go out and they pick up CMC, and now they can run it, right?
Yes, that's going to limit the Chargers' offensive plays, I think. And so,
I do
keep
think
in mind if you've got Carter and you're thinking I'm going to start him, just think about that.
Carter might be Carter's definitely the riskier play. I think Palmer is worth a shot.
Absolutely, if you got Palmer.
The 49ers are giving up the 12th most points to opposing wide receivers fantasy-wise. That's the one thing they are giving up because they're winning all the time. People are always throwing.
So, 12, it's not terrible. It's not 24.
It's not terrible. It's a decent matchup. It's a decent matchup for it's as good as you're going to get against the 49ers because they're so good everywhere else. They are best in the league against opposing running backs. You play Austin Eckler regardless of the matchup, but just keep in mind he's facing the best rushing defense in the game.
Right, and the thing about Austin Eckler though is he doesn't have to rush the ball; he can catch it as well.
He can catch it,
and so that solves that just a little bit.
I think Gerald Everett is startable this week because he's a tight end that's actually capable. There are precious few of those in the league this week.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that that's where we're standing on the Chargers there.
Yep,
Herbert, you're playing. Eckler, you're playing.
He had 8 targets. So
Palmer, you can play. Everett, you're playing.
Tight ends that have 8 targets, you can start them.
The 49ers are really good against kickers, but
you're starting everybody on it.
I don't know if you can resist
everybody.
If you need a kicker. If you had Evan McPherson and he's off this week, and you go out and pick yourself up Dicker the kicker, I don't think there's a whole lot. That's just a fun pickup. Pick up Dicker.
Yeah, the only one that you need to be aware of is Debo is questionable, and so
yes. And that's where we're going next.
Yeah, the Sunday night game. So you need to have something.
You need to have a backup plan for Sunday night and or Monday.
That's playing Monday or something like that. Because if Debo don't go,
right,
you need a wide receiver.
Pick up Cam Sims or somebody like that who is playing Monday that you can still go out and get, or Quez Watkins maybe. Pick somebody up that you can at least plug in if it comes down to the
it's a hamstring issue with him. So
and that's not a new thing for him either. Obviously you're playing McCaffrey. He's been great while he's there. If Samuel's healthy, if he goes in that game, I think you have to start him if you have him. Because you
absolutely
he's just
took him
he's
in
that kind of talent.
The first round or second at the latest.
Right. Brandon Ayuk I have as a wide receiver 2 this week or flex type option. I think Ayuk is good in a DFS from a DFS standpoint. The Chargers are not great against opposing wide receivers, but they're not terrible. But I think Ayuk is worth a look. He's had 80 plus yards in 3 straight games. He's got 3 touchdowns over that span. He's got 2 games out of his last 3 where he scored over 20 points for you. Ayuk's a decent play, especially if Samuel doesn't play. Ayuk will be the top receiver there. George Kittle, you're starting him. We don't have to talk about it.
Even though he only had 3 catches last week.
But you have to start him.
You do.
It's the tight end position. You drafted him to play him. I doubt that you were, if you drafted George Kittle, I doubt you were the.
You didn't get the numbers you expected out of him.
You're
That's
not
easy
getting
to
what you
say.
wanted out of him, but you also probably didn't go out and grab Tyler Conklin and
No.
hit the lottery.
Hopefully
on that.
that's not what you did. No.
So, but I am also starting the 49er defense. They're just too damn good. I know it's the Chargers offense and they can
Like I
score
said,
40
number
in a given
one
week,
in the NFL.
but they're just so good. You've got to
Hopefully, because they were off last week, hopefully you didn't drop their defense.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You know,
if you could somehow finagle around that, if you had the bench spot to kind of hang on to them, yeah. And we're getting to that point in the year. We're getting close to the stretch run where, yeah, you might want to start thinking about your end game strategy here.
right.
But
Especially because week 14, there's a lot. That's the last week of the buys. And there are a lot of good players that are on bye that week. So just know
I picked up Philadelphia everywhere I could when people dropped them on their bye because their schedule here for this, there's like a month and a half stretch
all
here.
Season has been a cakewalk.
They've got such a great matchup run here over this.
Other than the Cowboys.
Other than the Cowboys, but still, I mean, they've if you can get that and you don't have to worry about it week after week, that's so valuable just for peace of mind. But let's look at the Monday night game real quick before we get out of here. We've got the Washington Commanders playing the last undefeated team in the NFL, Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to travel to Philadelphia. Quarter 4 has them as a 9-point favorite, the Eagles. They've got the over-under set at 44 for this game.
10.5 is what I have.
Yeah. And do you think it should be higher or lower?
When you talk about divisional games, I don't know. If I'm getting 10.5, I might go Commanders plus 10.5.
The Commanders probably by all rights should have won that game last week against
the Vikings.
And the Eagles ended up beating the Texans by 12, but they did not look like the absolute juggernaut that they have. Now I'm willing to forgive that. Okay. Whatever they looked like, they won the game, to paraphrase
That's right.
Tony Dungy. Or not Tony Dungy, Herm Edwards. They won the game. They played to win the game, and they did. So whatever you thought they looked like, they did it. The Commanders, though, like you said, it's a division game. Okay,
right. And the Commanders have the 14th ranked defense,
and they have looked better.
Has not been their problem.
Their offense has looked better with Heineke.
It's looked a little better, and hopefully you listened to me earlier in the season and you went out and got Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson, what a great story. First off,
you wind up you're shot, right? You're laying in the street or wherever it was that he was, and you're bleeding and everything else, and next thing you know, you're on the field, and let's see here, Brian Robinson, he catches the ball.
Yes.
Even though he caught the ball and it was negative yardage, but he still caught the ball
last week.
And he had 13 carries.
He can play. Okay. He can play on any down that they want him to, and he's a good runner. And
that's more carries than Gibson had.
It's amazing to get shot in the knee and not touch anything vital.
Not touch anything vital.
I can't. There is so much going on in that joint, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a doctor.
Right, and you got guys that just step off the curb and blow out their ACL.
But there is so much going on in your knee that for a bullet to pass through that structure and not touch anything vital, especially when the man does the job, he doesn't do an office job. He's not you or I sitting here in front of the computer, talking football. He's playing it. It's a crazy story. But
right.
J.D. McKissick now, he was injured didn't play last week. J.D. McKissick they shopped him in the offseason here. And I think everybody thought Antonio Gibson was done. I think we all thought they were moving on from him.
I thought so.
And now here he is getting run. He's getting more run than I think any of us thought he would. In fact, they're kind of using him more as their receiving back than they had McKissick. They're still giving, like you said, Robinson still had more carries, but Gibson is not going away. This is much more a committee than I thought we all figured it was going to be when we picked up Robinson. Because of that pass catching, I actually have Gibson ranked higher than Robinson this week because I think they're going to be down. I think they're going to want to throw. I don't think they're going to give the ball to McKissick, even if he's healthy enough to play. I don't think he is.
Yeah, McKissick is a player I drafted, and I'm sorry I did so.
Right. I mean, there were talk about, I mean, remember, he was a done deal to the Bills before that whole debacle went down,
Right.
and found himself back in town here in Washington. And it would not have shocked me if he was healthy, if he would have been dealt at the deadline last week.
Right.
When we all,
And if
but
he's
we all
not
thought that
catching
was going to be
balls,
Gibson.
he's completely useless.
We thought that was going to be Gibson early in the year, though. In the preseason, we all thought that, Robinson took it, Gibson's done. He's still not done, even though Robinson's back. I've got McLaurin as a wide receiver too. I've got Curtis Samuel as a flex. Curtis Samuel has actually run the ball in 3 straight weeks now. He only had 1 carry this past week, but before that he had 5 and 6. That was good because he went for about a 4-week stretch where he hadn't carried the ball at all, and that's where his value comes from, is being Deebo Samuel light.
Right.
So I've got Curtis Samuel as a flex. I don't think you're playing their tight end, Logan Thomas. He had three targets and no catches last week.
Yep. And anytime you're talking about a player that has a big squadouche.
Right.
No.
I think they're going to want to throw in this game. So I think that McLaurin is he's definitely their top receiver. Like I said, if you can go out, maybe pick up like a Cam Sims, if you want to take a deep dart throw at De'Ami Brown, they might be guys you can hold as contingency plans for, like we said, for Deebo.
Hopefully you're not relying too many Washington Commanders.
No, but they are going to have to throw the ball Monday night. So as a contingency plan, in case Deebo doesn't go, you'll probably be able to find one of those guys off the wire for them. Likewise, like I said, you can probably find Watkins as well. And so that brings us to the Eagles here to wrap things up here before we close out the show.
Yeah.
Are you playing Jalen Hurts this week if you've got him?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you need if you're going on let's say Facebook, right, and you're asking that question, you need to shut down your fantasy account right there and then, because he's talk about a dude, throwing, rushing, whatever.
He's doing everything right now.
He's doing everything. I don't know if he's drawing up the plays on the sideline or, going to get the coffee for the coaches, whatever it is, he's doing it all. And so I think there's a lot of Eagles, unlike the Commanders. If you've got Eagles, you're starting them pretty much all. You're starting A.J. Brown, of course. You're starting Dallas Goedert. I've got him. I'm starting him. Definitely. Miles Sanders had 92 yards, which I thought you talk about a guy you thought was
another guy we thought was dead, and here he comes.
Yep, dead and buried, and maybe Justin got a hold of him, and I don't know, and resurrected him. Yep. Yeah, so but he had 92 yards and a touchdown. He also had 4 catches, and so the only player, that you're not starting is Devonta Smith. Don't do it. This guy.
I have Smith. Yep. I have Smith as a wide receiver 3 flex type.
2 catches.
At top. Yep.
It was 2, and 22. That's what he had last week.
Is the new Deshaun Jackson in some ways. He's got a ton of ability. And occasionally, he's going to catch a couple of balls. He's going to take long touchdowns, and he's going to have big game. He popped for a big game a couple weeks ago. He is not a bad player in any way, shape, or form. I wish to gosh Green Bay had somebody like him.
No, he sure isn't, but he has not lived up
his
to
consistency,
that, draft pick.
Yeah, his consistency has been very hard to gauge. Now, he popped for 30 in week 3. He had the 169 yards, 12 targets, but he's only seen that kind of target share twice this year. 12 targets in week 3, 11 in week 5. Otherwise, his targets are all over the map, and they're on the lower end of the map.
And 4 fantasy points last week.
He is just as He's just as likely to catch 2 balls for 20 or 30 yards as he is to catch 8 to 10 balls for 130 and 2 scores. If you are playing Devonta Smith, if you have him and you're playing him in your fantasy league, you're going to have to live with that. You're going to have to live. It's Tyler Lockett syndrome. He's going to have weeks, but you don't know where they are. And he's not necessarily the top receiver on that team because that belongs to A.J. Brown.
Right.
On top of that, you brought up Dallas Goedert, and I'm glad you did. Dallas Goedert is my tight end 3 this week,
Yeah.
or tight
you
end 2,
look
I
at-
should say. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
Look
love
at
Dallas
Goddard, 8 catches, 9 targets, 100 yards, and a touchdown.
Right? Dallas Goedert is
Nothing more
one. He
needs
has
to be
stepped
said
up.
about him.
Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, when he's healthy, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are the no brainers. They're the no question starters. I think this year I always liked Dallas Goedert. I always liked Zach
Yes.
Ertz. I like them
That's why I
much more now
drafted
that they're separate.
Mhm.
Now that they're not fighting for targets in the same offense that never threw the ball in the first place, I like Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert much more, and they have worked themselves into, at least at the tight end position, they're every week startable players.
Yep, Dallas Goedert is what you thought Pitts.
Yes,
gonna
and I
be.
love Dallas Goedert. I thought he was going to get a ton of targets in this offense. He had a big target share last year, and yes, I know AJ Brown came in, but the tight end targets weren't going to go anywhere.
No.
So I like him a lot. I have him as my number 2 tight end play in the week. And I'll tell you something. I have their defense. I have the Eagles defense as the must play of the week, as the top play.
Right.
I have them as the top
Absolutely,
defense this
which
week.
they're the top three defense overall.
Yes. And
And so
playing
unless
against
you've
Washington.
got the 49ers,
Yep.
Philadelphia
against
against the
Washington, I
Washington
like them.
Commanders.
At
Make-
home against the division rival, but against the Commanders with Heineke at quarterback, I like their chances. I like Philadelphia's defense.
If you've
this
got
week.
Philadelphia's defense, you
Woo.
have no reason to have any other on your fantasy team.
No, not
The
at all.
rest of the way,
Yeah, you
even
can pretty
against
much,
the Cowboys.
they're as close as you're going to get right now to a set and forget defense because of their matchups and how well they've performed.
Right.
So,
Like I said, the only game that you need to be even remotely concerned about going forward is the Cowboy game.
all right. Well, that's going to just about do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. We covered all the standalone games this week. I'm just about out of Shiner Bach.
Yeah, we can't have that.
With my
We
Texan
both-
friend and the Germany game this week. Grabbing a
That's
nice
right.
Bach.
Got to be ready. Got to. So, what's
So-
the German beer, Chase, that you recommend for Sunday's game? Go.
A German beer that I recommend for Sunday's game. Well, I mean, I like Bach's. I like Bach
I do
type
too.
beers.
Okay, I do too.
They're my favorite type.
Okay,
type beers.
I can buy that 100%.
I like the Optimator
I've heard of it. I've never
yeah.
had it, but yeah, I've heard of it.
from Spaten. I don't speak German. I haven't had a German class since I was in
No,
8th grade.
I've never had one, so I'm
But
going to take your word for it.
the Optimator, it's a Doppelbock. It's a double bock. Spaten Optimator.
Okay. I've heard of it.
They used to come with a fun little charm. They used to come with a fun little charm that looked like a goat hanging around the neck of the bottle. That's one of my favorites in terms of German beers total. I would drink that, but again, take that with a grain of salt, everybody, not literal salt. But I've told you before, I like to chew my beer. I like beers with flavor. I like darker beers. I'm not one of these that wants to go out and drink something yellow out of a blue and silver can. So Spaten Optimator probably isn't for everybody, but that's where I'd be going if I'm drinking a German beer during the Germany game this week.
Okay.
All
And
right.
hopefully you're doing it at home because, like I said, the game starts at 8:30.
Yeah.
So-
It'll be early in the morning to crack that open, but we'll have the show after that. You can catch us both. You're going to be there Sunday. You're going to be on Sunday morning on the show, right? On Belly Up Fantasy Live. So you can catch us both on Sunday morning with Andrew
That's
Leduc,
right.
and you can catch us both.
10 a.m. Central,
Yes, at 10 a.m. Central, and you can
11 East,
also
where time begins. All right.
you can catch Kevin and myself both in our columns and articles on bellyupfantasy.com or bellyupfantasysports.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you again on Sunday morning. And until then, Prost, I guess is what they say in Germany. For my tastes, we say Slanja. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Everybody have a great week.
We will see you later.